Welcome again, students. Today we are taking up the poem Going by Philip Larkin. And before we start the poem, let's have a look at the biography of Philip Larkin and a little bit about Philip Larkin as a poet. Philip Larkin was born on August 9, 1922, and he went to Oxford. His first book of poetry, The North Ship, was published in 1945. In 46, Larkin discovered the poetry of Thomas Hardy and became a great admirer of his poetry. Learning from Hardy how to make the commonplace and often dreary details of his life the basis for extremely tough and memorable poems. With his second volume of poetry, The Less Deceived, Larkin became the prominent poet of his generation and a leading voice of what came to be called as the movement. Now, this is important because a group of young English writers who rejected the prevailing fashion for neo romantic writing in the style of Yeats and Dylan Thomas. So, like Hardy, Larkin focused on intense personal emotion, but he strictly avoided self pity or sentimentality in his poetry. In 1964, Larkin confirmed his reputation as a major poet with the publication of Whitsun Weddings, and again in 74. Collections often, we can say, searing and mocking because wit cannot conceal the poet's dark vision and underlying obsession. He was obsessed with universal themes of mortality, love, and human solitude. Thou very antisocial, deeply antisocial, and a great lover, published critic of American jazz, Larkin never married and he worked as a librarian in the provincial city of Hull. Larkin is considered to be the most representative and highly regarded of the poets who gave expression to a clipped anti romantic sensibility which was prevalent in English verses in the 1950s. Philip Larkin is generally acknowledged, as we have just said in the last slide, that as a poet of the movement, which grew up out of a reaction against the modernist movement, and each of them had distinguishing characteristics that are opposed to each other. And Larkin's work fits firmly in the characteristics that define the movement. These features pertain to form, self, individualism, and realism. We see that modernism rejected conventional poetic form and presented itself as a fragmentation of form which was visible in experimentation with genre, and the fragmentation of time which presented events in a non chronological, non linear, non unified order. Self, which is the ontological representation of the speaker and of the writer, is alienated from the self and society and hence similarly fragmented. So, characterization or defining qualities are obscure and possibly shallow, making knowledge of the presented self elusive. In modernist poetry, individualism is a paramount concern. In this sense, individualism refers to representing the speaker's or the writer's personal individual experience, regardless of whether it may or may not represent a universal commodity amongst people. A correlated characteristic is the representation of a modernist worldview, that is anti realism, meaning modernist poems are not meant nor desired to be held up to reality as a true representation or a reliable mirror of life or the world. On the other hand, we see that the poets of the movement they embraced a return to form as a reaction against the fragmentation of form begun by the modernists. Regarding the self, this movement offered straightforward representations of the self of the poetic speaker or the writer and presented a positive ontological view of self as opposed to the modernist alienated ontological view. And in correlation with the self, the individualism of modernism it gave way to the movements within the quotes, a representation of the individual in relation to society, reacting to and often reacting against society. While modernists embraced experimentation of form, the movement embraced the forms and conventions of previously established poetic genres, embracing the structure in reaction against the modernist abandonment of structure. In addition to this, while the modernists adhered to anti-realism, the movement started by Larkin, it reflected the reality of the mundane commonplace that was more realistic than the realism begun in the Romantic period. So, whereas Wordsworth, the founder of English poetic romanticism, laced his realism with metaphors and what might be called as a low poetic diction, the movement they eschewed literary devices, striving for plain, direct language devoid of simile, metaphor, symbolism, or other literary techniques. Now, Larkin's poetry displays all these characteristics, from the structure of his composition to the straightforward ontological representation of self devoid of alienation, of the individual experience in society. And Philip Larkin, in fact, is considered, that is why, to be a true representative of the movement because his poems they adhere to and help define the distinctive and definitive characteristics of the movement. There are, we can see, conflicting opinions also about Larkin as a poet, and there is a variety of wide diversity of critical opinions about his achievements as a poet. We will look at a few of these critics. Larkin was praised and has won an applause, very warm and enthusiastic kind of applause, and also provoked criticism, which was rather very harsh and severe. So some of the renowned critics they found fault with his poetry, and some of them defended against his fault finding. Among the several critics, the prominent ones are Alfred Alvarez, Charles Tomlinson, and defenders include Donald Davey and Andrew Motion. Now, Larkin's detractors they have seen him as a reluctant poet of the drab and austere services of post-war Britain. While his defenders, they pointed out to the social realism of his poetry and the clear-sighted acceptance of the way things were. Eventually, we see that it was this image of intelligibility which served to recommend him to contemporary readers and helped to sustain his popularity. The publication of his last volume of poems entitled High Windows in 1974, it brought about a great change in the earlier critical appraisal of his works. It became almost common to say that his poetry suffered from the faults of boredom and mediocrity, and it relied too much on a narrow range of forms and techniques. But we see that after 74, Philip Larkin began to be seen by most readers as a very provocative and disquieting poet whose work showed the impact of modernism and symbolism. Now, these previous charges of which were laid against him, he was regarded as belonging to the tradition of poetry, which was represented by Wordsworth, Hardy, Thomson. But later, he began to be recognized as a follower of T.S. Eliot, W.B. Yeats, and Lawrence. Though he myself would not have been consciously aware of the influence of these generation of poets. When we look at the themes in his poetry, time, death, chance, and choice, these have been identified by critics as the leading themes in his poetry. In fact, according to many of his critics, these themes are very stuff of which Larkin poetry is made. And we see that Larkin's critics have pointed to the narrowness of his range of themes, and admirers, they have expressed the praise for his distinctive treatment of the themes. One of our critics, he defines Larkin's greatness as a writer in the light of his treatment of a traditional and lasting subject matter. And he writes, his themes love, change, disenchantment, mystery are unshakably major. Another critic, he said among Larkin's best poems are many which deal simply with universal themes of time, suffering, and death. Illusion is interwoven with all human thinking, and that human beings can never escape from the inadequacy of the present. Another critic who speaks of Larkin's particular kind of a compassionate despair at the human condition, and this critic names the poem Faith Healing as an example when he criticizes, and he says that Larkin makes out a bitter and unalterable situation of in poetry, which is undoubtedly modern as far as content and cadences are concerned, and yet another admirer of Larkin. He refers to the perennial theme of Larkin's poetry, and he says that death and old age are two of the most obsessive themes of Larkin's poems. Disappointment in his life, pressures of the society, and desire to escape the pressures together have also been the common themes in his poems. And we look at one more critic who speaks of contemporary circumstances and says that Larkin is intimately concerned with a world in which human beings are caught up in time, desire, and disappointment. And he has discussed the poem Church Going, where the speaker of the poem is skeptical of the fruits of skepticism and dissatisfied with the disbelief as conventional dogmas. Another group of critics have discussed Larkin's poetic style also, and they say that Larkin's technical achievements, including imagery and meter, rhythm, syntax, they have been commented and criticized in detail. For instance, one critic says that when we look at the poem Grass, half rhymes, home rhyme, and the para rhyme of groom in the first stanza, they say the effect that is produced to feel the voice, hush, and imagery, they become subdued by the kind of syntax and devices that Larkin uses. One more critic who talks about the linguistic features of poetry and distinguishes that the style and structure, namely metaphor and metonymy, has not been very prominent in his poems. And he says that when Larkin employs metonymic and syncoptic details in his stanzas in many of the poems, the scenery or descriptions, it takes off on a very kind of an affirmative element, but then some kind of happens and the effects are reduced to actually not conveying the right kind of the sense that it was made to convey. Now, when we look at Larkin as a poet, we see that a majority of his poems there is a hostility to the ideas and techniques of modernism because he expressed a deep dislike for the work of three modernists in particular, the musician who was Parker, Ezra Pound, and Picasso. And he regarded these modernist experiment in the fields of music, poetry, and paintings, in his own words, as irresponsible exploitations of technique in opposition to human life. So we see that in during the 1980s, some critics who perceived a distinct symbolist mode in Larkin's poetry, this kind of a critical attitude, um, like offered by Larkin's poetry, it shows a kind of a recognition towards affirmative and transcendental elements in his poetry. And the volume of poems, High Windows, it was highly praised by the critics also. And this volume actually turned the critics towards a positive note